everybody, Sean from Movie Assault here, and it is time once again for another What I Watched Last Month video. This time around, it is for March of 2023. I try to watch as much physical media as I can. I obviously am a big supporter of physical media, but this month I did a pretty terrible job of watching stuff on physical media. I did watch some, but sometimes I got a little lazy and would just stream stuff from the couch without bothering to get up and come in here and pop something in the 4K player. So, yeah. So it's kind of an eclectic mix this month, or last month. I started off with Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. This is a 1978 TV movie starring the original members of Kiss. They are superheroes, they're a rock group, they're not very good actors. This is a movie where they're pitted against an evil inventor for control of an amusement park or something. It's a really stupid plot. It's a really stupid movie. And I knew that going in. I had seen it twice before. I'm a big Kiss fan, admittedly, and this was not one of their finer moments. The stunts are done by obvious doubles who don't look anything like the members of Kiss they're trying to represent. Case in point, Ace Frehley is played by a black guy, and it couldn't be more obvious. The budget was basically nil for this movie. It plays like a live-action Scooby-Doo movie. It's really what it's like. And I know Kiss went on to make a movie, animated movie with the Scooby-Doo gang, which I still have not seen. But anyway, Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. I figured I would watch it again to remind myself how bad it was. And it's still bad, even though now I understand why, because there was a lot of turmoil going on within the band. And this was just not a great career move. But anyway, I'll give it a 3 out of 10. And I'm being generous. Then I watched Creed 3. I did a review of that film on this channel, so you can check that out. I'll give that one a 7 out of 10. Then I watched a movie called Glitch, The Rise and Fall of HQ Trivia. This was a documentary that was on CNN, and it was pretty interesting if you remember the HQ Trivia app. It was like the hottest thing in the world for about a 6-month, 7-month span. And this really is just a documentary about the rise and fall of the app and how the two guys that came together to create the app and market it and get it started, recruit Scott Rogowski as the host, who was the big star, and that created some problems because apparently the two guys that created it didn't like that the host was becoming the face of the app. Petty jealousy, just really stupid stuff that kind of derailed this thing. They did everything wrong, basically. But it made for an interesting movie, and I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Next up, I watched on Amazon Prime, I watched a movie called The Magnetic Monster from 1953. And yeah, I just want to make sure it was 1953. And it sounds like it would be sort of an interesting 1950s science fiction movie where, you know, men are against monsters. The magnetic monster in this movie, though, is not a monster at all. It is actually radioactive material that is causing things to become magnetic, and it basically needs to feed on energy, and it keeps growing, and it becomes essentially a creature, a living creature of some sort. It's not a very good movie. It's interesting. The premise is really cool, but it really was kind of boring. It's very talky, and it really puts the science in science fiction, even though the science is kind of questionable. And it wraps up with, I guess, some footage from a German movie. I guess they used this footage from that to save money on the special effects. In any case, it's interesting, but not really good. And I'll give that one a 4 out of 10. Then I watched a short movie called The Elephant Whisperers. This was nominated for, and I believe won, the Academy Award for Best Short Film this year. And that wasn't much to it. It's just basically about two people in India taking care of elephants. They obviously care for the elephants, and it shows, how they bond with them, but how the government is really the ones who are in charge of the elephants and their well-being and who they take care of and whatnot. So some of the elephants that they raise are taken from them and moved to other wildlife preserves. It's an interesting movie. It's perfectly good at 40 minutes. It didn't need to be any longer or any shorter. And I really enjoyed it. It's just, there's not much to it. It's just interesting if you like elephants and learning a little bit about other parts of the world. And that I will give an 8 out of 10. Then I watched probably the best movie I've seen, or I saw last month, and that was called Dio Dreams Never Die. It's a documentary about the heavy metal singer Ronnie James Dio. He fronted, of course, the band Dio, which was his solo band, but he was also the singer for a band called Elf, Rainbow, and Black Sabbath. And this is really kind of it's kind of a softball documentary. I mean, it was made in cooperation with his widow, his wife, who was also his manager, and he passed away in 2010, I believe, from stomach cancer. But it's really just a tribute to his work ethic more than it is a story about his life. But you'll learn more about the guy than you probably would ever want to know. But it's really well put together. It has a great sense of humor. I learned a lot of things about Ronnie James Dio that I did not know before. Your mileage may vary on your enjoyment of it. But one thing that set it apart from the documentary that I watched last month about Randy Rhoads is that they actually secured the rights to the music. So you get to hear all of these songs that made Ronnie James Dio stand apart from other vocalists. And you can hear the power in his voice, the power in the music. And that really seals the deal and makes this a much more effective movie than the Randy Rhoads documentary that I watched last month, which only had the rights to the early Quiet Riot stuff and didn't have the rights for the Ozzy stuff. So the movie's making this great case about how awesome his material with Ozzy was, and you didn't get to hear it. Here you get to hear everything that made Dio, and it's really, really a good movie. And I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Then I watched Bride of the Monster. I did a review of that here on the channel, so you can take a look at the video for that. And that I gave a 4 out of 10. Then the next movie I watched was a movie that hasn't been released theatrically yet. It comes out this weekend. I will have a full review of it on Friday on the channel, so I'm not going to say too much about it other than I didn't like it. And I'll give it a 5 out of 10. And that movie is Paint, starring Owen Wilson. And it comes out April 7th. So I was able to see it as part of Regal's mystery movie that they do on Monday nights. For $5, you get to go to a movie, but you don't know what it is. There was one of those tonight that I did not go to because I had a feeling I knew what movie it was going to be, and I really didn't want to see that movie. And that movie was Mafia Mama with Toni Collette, and I just wasn't interested, so I didn't go. But anyway, Paint, 5 out of 10. Then I watched a movie that has 2 different names. One is Jungle Holocaust. The other is Last Cannibal World. No matter what you call it, it's not that good of a movie. It was made by Ruggero Deodato, who did, of course, Cannibal Holocaust. And even though that movie is much more controversial and probably much more vomit-inducing, this was just an unpleasant film. And I kind of knew that going in. It's a cheapy cannibal movie from Italy. It's probably pretty typical of Italian cannibal movies. If you like that sort of thing, you'll probably have a good time with it. I didn't, and I'll give it a 4 out of 10. Then on Hulu, I watched Boston Strangler with Keira Knightley. And this is, after watching it, I heard a lot of people comparing it to Zodiac and kind of denigrating it or downgrading it or dismissing it as sort of a Zodiac ripoff. I haven't seen Zodiac yet, so I can't compare it to Zodiac. If that's the case, then I really want to see Zodiac because I had a great time with this movie. I thought it was really interesting. Keira Knightley plays a female reporter who is paired up with another female reporter, and they take the lead on breaking the story about the Boston Strangler in the 60s. And they run into some flack because they're women, and women shouldn't get stories like this. They're sort of looked down on by the cops and other papers. It's an interesting movie. It's kind of an investigative movie, and kind of leaves you wondering if we really knew or we ever really found out what happened with the case, whether or not it was solved or not. It's pretty interesting. So if you like true crime stuff, you probably would like Boston Strangler. If you liked Zodiac, it might annoy you. I can't really speak to that, but I'll give it an 8 out of 10. And then the last movie that I watched in March, I actually did a video for, and that was Dragon Slayer. And so you can watch my review of that one on the channel. That was the last review that I just posted on Friday. And that one I gave an 8 out of 10. So there you go. That's what I watched during the month of March in 2023. I've already watched a few movies in April so far, so I'm off to a much better start than I was for March. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. If you got this far, I really appreciate it. If you like videos like this, please subscribe. Again, if you've just subscribed to the channel and you're new, welcome aboard. I really appreciate you doing so. And if you haven't yet, this is kind of pretty much what I do on this channel. So I do reviews, talk about what I watched, what I bought, and sometimes do unboxings and other movie-related stuff. So if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take it easy.